set sail from Port Canaveral. On the first Sunday of March, 2002, the air already had that soft promise of spring, warm enough to make you think of summer, yet still cool when the breeze caught you. My boss, Rebecca Carter, she just finished 15 years as a regional manager for a medical supply company. Her big reward? A cruise aboard Royal Caribbean's giant Wonder of the Seas. She brought her husband, Rick, and their 16-year-old son, Aiden. And since Rebecca never really stops working, she also brought me her personal assistant. I'd never been on a cruise before. Seeing that floating city rise above the terminal, those endless balconies stacked like apartments, it didn't even feel real. Sail away was a blur, steel drum music, rum punch, people shouting in 3 different languages. During the muster drill, I stood beside Lifeboat 16 on Deck 5, trying to memorize every safety instruction, while everyone else was just laughing and taking selfies. Rebecca peeked over her sunglasses, smiled, and said, "Relax, nothing bad ever happens on these things." Behind her, the dock began to slide away, and the ship's horn rumbled so deep it shook my ribs. We drifted past Jetty Park families, waving from the pier, and pointed straight toward the open Atlantic. The first 2 days passed in a kind of easy rhythm. Monday, we docked in Nassau. The Carters went for a dolphin swim, but I decided to stay behind, wandered down Bay Street, picked up some trinkets, bottles of coconut water. Aiden wanted to rent a jet ski, but his parents said no, too expensive. Paperwork looked shady. We sulked for a while, then disappeared into the arcade. That was Aiden all mood 1 minute, charm the next. By midnight, he was laughing again, eating soft-serve ice cream, talking about trying the Flow Rider surf simulator on Deck 16. Tuesday was a sea day. By then, the ship already felt smaller, the hallways familiar, the cafes mapped out in my head like a mall I'd worked in for years. I woke early, jogged the track, met Rebecca in the solarium for green smoothies, sent a dozen emails through the ship's weak Wi-Fi, and still found time to read by the pool. Aiden bounced between the basketball court and the teen club. He'd already made friends, other high schoolers thrilled to be free for a week. We really only saw him at dinner, hair wet, skin pink from the sun, always promising, "I'll be back before midnight." That promise lasted until Tuesday night. The sea was calm, smooth as glass. We had dinner early, salmon for Rebecca, prime rib for Rick, pasta for Aiden, which he barely touched. He said a girl from Colorado had invited him to karaoke on Deck 15. Rebecca rolled her eyes, but let him go. I went to see the ice show, then wandered through the Royal Promenade, where a 92nd Street party was playing beneath that painted twilight ceiling. Around 11 p.m., I stepped into the Rising Tide bar, the one that slowly drifts between decks like an elevator. Had a single glass of Merlot, felt the floor hum beneath my shoes, and thought, yeah, that's enough for a work trip. By midnight, I was back in my cabin, Deck 10, no window, headphones in, scrolling through social media until I drifted off. Then a knock. At first, I thought I dreamed it, but it came again hard, quick, urgent. I checked my phone. 1:32 a.m. Rebecca was in the doorway, barefoot, loose gym shorts, eyes wide, like something had gone horribly wrong. "Is Aiden with you?" she asked. Still half asleep, I blinked. "No, why would he be?" She pushed past me, looked around the cabin like maybe her son was hiding behind a chair. "He never came back," she said. Rick fell asleep with the TV on. I woke up and his bed was empty. Every bit of wine in my system vanished. Rebecca was pacing, gripping her phone so tight her knuckles went white. "He has asthma," she kept saying, though we both knew he barely needed that inhaler anymore. We called his number straight to voicemail. I threw on sneakers. She slid into sandals, and we stepped into the quiet hallway, lit only by dim night bulbs. Somewhere below, the engine thudded steady, like a slow heartbeat. At guest services, a small woman named Claire listened carefully, calm but serious. She took Aiden's full name, cabin number, last seen location. Because he's a minor, she said. Security will be notified immediately. She spoke into a radio short, coded phrases I couldn't make sense of. Then came the quiet announcement. Bright star, deck 15 forward. Only crew could hear that one. Security arrived fast, led by a broad-shouldered man named Victor. He asked for a photo. Rebecca pulled one up, Aiden laughing beside the pickleball court earlier that day. Victor sent it out to every guard on duty. Then came the hard question. Any reason your son might want to leave the ship? Rebecca shook her head. He's terrified of deep water. He can barely swim. I tried to lighten the tension. He loves the gym too much to skip leg day. No one laughed, and the search began. Victor's team went through decks 2 to 8. Claire checked cabin key logs in case Aiden had gone somewhere else. Rebecca and I followed another guard, Marta, up through the upper decks. Shuttered shops, empty lounge chairs, arcade machines glowing red and green in the dark. On the pool deck, only towel bins moved, rustling in the wind. The sea below sounded like faint static. The teen club locked and dark. Marta's scanner showed the last exit at 12:07 a.m. Next door, the sports bar empty. A lone bartender wiping counters while an NBA replay looped on the screens. He swore he hadn't seen any kid in a blue NASA hoodie Aiden's outfit that night. We checked everywhere. The jogging track, the mini golf course, even behind the lifeboats where people usually sneak a smoke during the day. Nothing. Rebecca's breathing turned ragged.
He could be anywhere,
she whispered, and I knew what she was thinking. A railing, a stumble, a single wrong step into black water. It happens. Crew, passengers, the ocean, it keeps its secrets. At 2:15 a.m., Victor's voice came over the radio. No sign. Phase 2, he said, meaning every public area and staff corridor would be searched. Claire told us to wait near the pool deck in case Aiden showed up. We stood there, by the covered bar, the wind tugging at our clothes. The sky was pitch black, no moon, just a handful of dim stars. 20 minutes later, Marta's voice burst through the radio. Possible sighting. Deck 16 forward, starboard side. Rebecca ran before anyone could stop her. I followed past the flow rider, past stacked lounge chairs, until we reached the bow. It was dark, quiet, the wind sharp and cold. And there he was, Aiden, standing near the rail where couples pose for Titanic photos during the day. Still, hands in his hoodie pockets. And next to him, a man, tall, dressed head to toe in black. Black jeans, track jacket, baseball cap pulled low. The wind pressed the jacket tight against him. He looked thin. Lanky, Rebecca shouted, her voice breaking. Aiden flinched. The man turned slightly, just a pale cheek. A bit of stubble. No name tag. No logo. Nothing but shadow hiding his eyes. We rushed toward them. He didn't run. He just stepped aside, calm, putting himself between us and the stairs to deck 15. Aiden said something too soft to hear. Then the man turned and walked away, slow, unhurried. By the time we reached Aiden, he'd vanished down the stairwell. I grabbed the rail, nearly slipped on the wet deck. Moments later, Victor and 2 guards appeared. Rebecca clutched her son, shaking him like she was trying to bring him back to life. But Aiden wouldn't look at her. Marta spoke into her radio. Male, 6 to 2, all black clothing, nationality, unknown. Security split up. Rebecca and I led Aiden inside, away from the wind. His face was gray, lips pale. He didn't cry, just trembled so hard the zipper on his hoodie clicked. We sat him down near a towel stand. I asked what happened. He stared at the floor, silent. Finally, he whispered, "The view's better at night. Nobody comes up here." I asked if the man touched him. He shook his head. He just talked. Asked where I live, what grade I'm in, if I like movies. When I said I should go, he said, "Wait 1 more minute." Aiden swallowed hard. He kept looking around, like he was waiting for someone else. Rebecca's eyes filled. "Did he tell you his name?" He shook his head. "Did he ask you to go with him?"
There was a pause, then a small nod.
He said, "There's a door on deck 4, to the crew deck. You can sit right above the water." He said, "It feels like flying." Aiden's hands clenched.
I got scared.
Then you yelled, and he left. Security never found the man in black. CCTV showed him and Aiden on deck 16 at 12:58 a.m., leaning over the rail. The man's cap hid his face the entire time. At 2:37, he slipped down the starboard stairs and disappeared. No keycard matched. No crew ID. No trace. Victor later admitted sometimes people pay crew to sneak extra passengers aboard. It's rare, but it happens. They logged it as suspicious person outcome undetermined. Aiden didn't leave the cabin after that. For the next 30 hours, he stayed on the lower bunk, earbuds in, watching movies with subtitles. Rebecca ordered room service and kept the curtains shut. Rick tried to joke about teen drama, but every laugh sounded forced, brittle. I buried myself in paperwork, gratuities, customs, forms, anything to keep my hands busy. When Wonder of the Seas docked back in Port Canaveral that Friday morning, the sunlight felt too bright, too normal. Passengers filled the theater, luggage tags in hand. Rebecca hugged me, thanked me for staying calm, promised me a week off. Aiden muttered goodbye, eyes glued to his phone. We rolled our suitcases down the gangway, past smiling crew who had no idea how that one night had changed everything. Outside, families were posing for photos beside a giant anchor statue, kids waving paper flags, already begging for the next vacation. Seagulls crying overhead. The ship loomed behind us, balconies stacked like honeycomb. And somewhere inside, maybe in some blind corner no camera could see, that man in black could still be hiding, waiting for the next sailing, the next curious teenager drawn to the ocean at night. Most passengers will never know. They'll dance at sail away, eat at the buffet, sleep beneath the gentle roll of the sea, trusting bright lights and keycards to keep danger away. But I still hear that wind from the forward deck, the deep hush of endless water below. Because on a ship, freedom and danger drift side by side, divided only by a waist-high rail and a sliver of darkness, where a stranger can wait unseen. I'd booked a 5-night cruise on the Celebrity Equinox, setting sail from Port Everglades on a warm Thursday afternoon in late September 2008. After months of grueling double shifts at the hospital, the thought of endless ocean views and bottomless buffets felt like oxygen. That first afternoon was a blur lifeboat drills, frozen cocktails, and that steady white roar of the ship's wake slipping away toward the Florida coast. By sunset, Key West was already a soft glow behind us, its lights flickering faintly on the horizon. I turned in early that night, ready to make the most of the next few days, even as the casino crowd across the hall was just getting started. Friday morning stretched out bright and calm. We were in open water, headed for Cozumel, nothing but deep blue in every direction. After breakfast, I wandered up to deck 14, the solarium. 2 hot tubs sat there, steaming beneath the glass roof. And for a ship with over 3,000 passengers, it was eerily quiet. A few guests floated half asleep in the bubbling water. I dipped my hand in too hot for the Caribbean sun and kept walking. But that image stuck with me. Strangers drifting, eyes hidden behind sunglasses, motionless like mannequins on display. Later that night, restless and buzzing from too much dessert, I decided to hunt down some coffee. The Ocean View Cafe always kept a pot brewing for insomniacs like me. The atrium was almost silent, just the low hum of the ventilation. Near the rear stairwell, I spotted a crew member pushing a mop bucket toward the pool doors. He wore a white jumpsuit and a small name tag, Luis. I held the door open for him to roll his cart through. He gave me a polite smile, soft-spoken, with a gentle Spanish accent. We exchanged a few words, the smell of disinfectant sharp in the air, the quiet splash of the pool against the tiles. Out there, under the stars, with nothing but water in every direction, even small talk felt strangely personal. When I asked how long he'd been at sea, he said, 7 contracts. 7 years, almost nonstop, just short breaks back home in Honduras. He kept mopping as we talked. I mentioned that one hot tub that always seemed busy no matter the hour. That's when Luis paused. He leaned on the handle, thinking. Then he said, "Do you want to hear something unsettling?" I hesitated, then shrugged. "Sure." Luis looked around, then lowered his voice. 2 cruises ago, he said quietly. On the first night out of port, a man died in the starboard hot tub. He said it like he'd said it before, calm, steady. Cardiac arrest. That's what the doctor wrote, but for hours, no one noticed. He told me it happened that April. Same ship, same route. A middle-aged man, traveling with his wife and teenage son, had slipped away from the welcome aboard show for a quick soak before bed. Security footage later showed him climbing into the water at 9:47 p.m., leaning back against the fiberglass edge and never moving again. There was a live band playing nearby. The sound drowned everything out. The water, the steam, the soft lights, they all hid the truth. He looked peaceful, head tilted back, sunglasses on, arms floating gently at his sides. Between 10 and midnight, at least 6 people joined that same hot tub. A young couple chatted inches from him. An older woman dipped her toes and left. 2 college guys argued about shore excursions right in front of his face. And still, no one realized he was gone. Luis shook his head. "Humans don't like to stare at strangers," he said. "We glance, judge, and then look away." It wasn't until 12:18 a.m. that a supervisor named Arjun came to close up for the night. He tapped the edge of the tub. Time to clear the area. Everyone got out, except the man. Arjun thought he was drunk. Tried to shake his shoulder, and his hand just sank in. The man folded sideways under the foam. Crew rushed in. They hit the emergency button. The medical staff arrived with a defibrillator, but it was far too late. They pulled him from the water, covered him with a towel, and called the time 12:24 a.m. After that, it was all procedure. Luis said there's a cold compartment on deck 3, starboard side officially labeled guest services, bereavement. It's the morgue. He'd only seen it twice. The body was taken down quiet hallways, through locked elevators only crew could use. His wife and son were woken by officers. Their cries echoed down those narrow metal halls, but no passengers ever heard a thing. By morning, life carried on like nothing had happened. Music, buffets, trivia, volleyball, business as usual. Luis told the story in a flat, practiced tone. When he finished, the only sound was the water jets hissing nearby. I looked down, my coffee had gone cold. For a moment, I imagined sinking beneath that same water, lungs burning, laughter echoing somewhere above me. I thanked Luis, though I didn't even know why, and went back inside. The buffet lights felt too bright, too cheerful. That night, I couldn't sleep. The ship's slow sway felt heavier somehow. Around 3 a.m., I stepped out onto my balcony. The air smelled of salt and diesel. Far below, I saw 2 figures floating in the forward hot tub, both wearing sunglasses in the middle of the night. I blinked. One of them moved, splashing the other, and I exhaled relieved. Alive. Just 2 people relaxing. Still. I closed the balcony door. Saturday in Cozumel was perfect. I went on a beach tour, ate grilled fish under a thatched roof, and tried to shake the feeling. By sunset, we were sailing again toward Grand Cayman. The captain promised calm seas. That night, around 11, I sent a few photos to my sister from the internet cafe. On the way back, I found myself walking toward the pool deck, almost pulled there. It was empty. Quiet. The starboard hot tub glowed turquoise under the lights, steam rising into the dark. A man sat alone inside. Mid-40 seconds, some stubble, wearing a rash guard, a cocktail glass resting beside him. He didn't move, didn't react, just sat there. 5 minutes passed. I told myself I was overthinking. Still, something felt wrong. I stepped closer. "Hey, you good?" I called out. No response. His chest rose barely, breathing but shallow, maybe drunk or worse. My years in the ER told me that look never meant anything good. I tapped his knee. "Hey man, you okay?" Nothing. The ship rocked gently, and his shoulder dipped under. I reached in to hold him up. His skin was warm, clammy. There was a pulse, weak. I slammed the red emergency button. Within seconds, 2 security guards and a medic came running. They pulled him from the water, started checking vitals, gave oxygen. The medic's calm face told me everything. This wasn't new. As they wheeled him away, I noticed Louis standing by the railing, mop in hand. He met my eyes and gave a slow nod, like a teacher acknowledging a student who'd finally understood. The hot tub churned empty, foam swirling down the drain. The night smelled like bleach and sea air. A chill ran through me, not fear exactly, just the weight of reality settling in. The next morning, the cruise director announced cheerfully that a guest had experienced a minor medical issue and was recovering well. Everyone clapped, then went back to breakfast like nothing had happened. Later that day, I ran into Luis again. He said the man's blood alcohol level was 0.26. "He'll go home with the story," Luis said. "But he'll go home." I asked how he handled it, seeing so much tragedy behind the smiles. He shrugged. "The ocean is big," he said softly. "We just keep our eyes open." On the last morning, dawn broke pink over Key West as we headed back toward Fort Lauderdale. I stood on my balcony, sipping black coffee, watching passengers pack their bags. Somewhere below, the morgue sat empty this time. The deck chairs glistened from the night's cleaning, their white straps shining like bones. Crew members folded towels into swans, lining them neatly for the day's first sunbathers. Vacation brochures never showed that narrow steel door marked bereavement. They never mentioned that most cruise ships carry enough body bags for a small town. Because death doesn't care about itineraries. And standing there in that soft morning light, I finally understood how thin the line really is between carefree escape and something final. My name's Shelby, and my late husband, Antonio. He was the greatest blessing of my life. To keep it short, he lost his life in a motorcycle accident. Exactly 8 years ago today, April 29th, 2016. What I'm about to share with you is something I've kept buried deep inside. Something I refuse to even think about. But I guess I'm finally ready now. Antonio and I were both born and raised in Italy. English isn't even my first language. He always dreamed of visiting Greece. But somehow, life kept getting in the way. Work, time, excuses. You know how it goes. And one of my biggest regrets was never taking that one summer off to go with him. Then in late spring of 2018, I finally decided enough waiting. I was going to take that trip, the one he always wanted to go on. At 36, with no kids and too much quiet at home, the idea of traveling alone didn't sound too comforting. So I thought, why not a cruise? It felt safer, calmer, maybe even peaceful. And as luck would have it, Celebrity Cruise Line had this best of Greece trip. 6 beautiful stops. Athens, Santorini, Ephesus, Mykonos, Volos, Thessaloniki, and then back to Athens again. I tried to feel excited, really, I did. But it was hard. It felt wrong somehow. Being there without him, that first night after leaving Athens. I'll admit I drank a little too much wine, but I told myself, if there was ever a time to stop holding back, it's now. After wandering through the city lights, I ended up in this nameless little bar, sipping martini after martini, one after another, and that's when I noticed him. Across the bar, a man, maybe around 40, long, straight, brown hair, an unkempt beard. He wasn't unattractive, but there was something about the way he stared at me. It was unsettling. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe he was just another lonely tourist. Maybe he thought I looked familiar. No big deal. But as our eyes met a few more times, I started to feel uneasy. His stare, it wasn't flirtatious. It wasn't curious. It was sharp, fixed, almost piercing, like he was looking straight through me. I finished my drink, probably the 8th by then, paid my tab, and hurried back to the dock. By the time I got to my cabin that night, I'd already forgotten about him. Next stop, Ephesus. Same routine. A little too much alcohol, a little guilt in between. But otherwise, nothing strange. Then came Mykonos. And of course, near the end of the day, I found myself alone again at an outdoor bar. And then, I saw him. He was standing near a lamppost, arms crossed, body still. I blinked, thinking maybe I was imagining things. But no, it was him, the same man from Santorini. And he was wearing the exact same clothes. A chill ran through me. Was this man following me? My palms started sweating. I rubbed them on my dress, trying not to look directly at him. But even from far away, I could feel it. That same stare. And when I finally glanced back, he was gone. You'd think I'd feel relieved. But no. If anything, it made me even more anxious. I looked around, heart racing, and when I couldn't see him anywhere, I joined a random couple heading toward the dock. We made small talk the whole way, just so I wouldn't have to walk alone. That night, instead of sleeping, I wandered around the ship, half curious, half scared. I searched every deck, every corner, until midnight came and I finally gave up. The next morning, we docked at Volos. This time, I decided not to leave the ship. I stood near the gangway, watching every single person step off, one by one. But he never appeared. Frustrated and exhausted, I went back to the pool deck and spent the afternoon trying to relax. The last stop, Thessaloniki. I didn't even want to get off the ship, but I knew if I didn't, I'd regret it later. So, I told myself, no bars, no alcohol this time. I just wandered through the streets, admiring the old buildings, the light, the air. And then, as if the universe was playing some cruel joke, there he was again. A few streets ahead, standing right in the middle of the road, arms straight by his sides, just staring. And this time, I didn't freeze. Something in me, anger, adrenaline, took over. I yelled at him, started walking toward him, but the second I did, he turned and ran. I chased him around a corner, caught a glimpse of him turning down another street, and ran after him. But when I reached the end, he was gone, completely gone, like he'd never been there at all. That night, I couldn't sleep. When we finally reached Athens again, I felt relieved, but that man haunted my thoughts. Back home, I opened my laptop and started searching for anything. News, police reports, anything that could explain what I'd seen. After scrolling for hours, I came across some missing person reports, page after page, until I froze. Right there, his photo. The same face, the same man. My stomach dropped, and then I saw the name, Antonio, my husband's name. I immediately called the police, told them everything. The operator thanked me, put me on hold for a moment, then came back and asked if I was absolutely sure. Yes, I said. There was silence. And then she told me something that made my blood run cold. That man's case had already been closed. He'd been found dead in a boating accident off the coast of Paros, Greece. And the date of his death? The same month and day Antonio died, just 2 years later. I hung up, shaking. I have never felt terror like that in my life. Was I losing my mind? Did I imagine all of it? And then another thought hit me. The only place I didn't see him was Ephesus. And Ephesus isn't even in Greece, it's in Turkey. I've never believed in ghosts, but I've replayed those moments 1,000 times, and none of it makes sense. Last summer, my niece Maria got married in Athens. I didn't want to go, but I had to. And just like clockwork, I saw him again, only for a moment. Same outfit, same stance, standing by the bar, head turned toward me. Maybe it was the drinks, maybe it was my mind, but I could have sworn it was him. Either way, that night, I made myself a promise. I will never set foot in Greece.